2018, and this is the 11 o'clock evening webinar for 50/50 crowdfunding. There are still people getting into the room, but we will make a start because we do like to try and start on time if we can. So, welcome to 50/50 crowdfunding. I'm your host for this evening. My name is Ray St. Clair, and I've been in this amazing business for a short while. And I'm here really to take you through a short presentation that will hopefully give you more information about the amazing system that we have here, and allow you to ask your questions at the end, and obviously then get back to the person who invited you on to this webinar. So let's move swiftly along, and we'll start by answering the question, well, what is crowdfunding? Many of you will have seen around the internet over the last few years the rise of websites such as Kickstarter and GoFundMe and Etsy and all sorts of crowdfunding websites that have come into existence as this industry has started to explode around the world. Indiegogo, there's another one, Circle Up. These are all crowdfunding websites, and the whole point of crowdfunding is that it allows companies or charities or individuals to raise funds through donations given them by ordinary people all around the world using the internet as a vehicle to do that. So here's an interesting statistic. How much has been raised through crowdfunding since really the birth of the industry? Well, in 2015, a worldwide estimate stated that over 34 billion US dollars have been crowdfunded in the last 3 years. That's pretty staggering when you think about it, that $34 billion has been crowdfunded in the last 3 years. Actually, if you think about it, that's $34 billion that people didn't borrow from the banks, and that's $34 billion worth of debt that wasn't created through the banks. It's people funding people through the crowdfunding platforms. And all the big players are getting in on the act. They're all beginning to realize that the transfer, the donation of money between people around the world is becoming a day-to-day occurrence, a regular thing happening everywhere in the world. Here's a screen that I saw today from PayPal, and you can see here, accept donations anywhere in the UK at any time. You can get a card reader from PayPal, I think it's about £20, and you can accept donations from people who just want to give you money on their debit or credit card. So massive organization, global organization, getting in on the crowdfunding act. And as we learned last night, Facebook are now changing their platform to allow charities, businesses, organizations, and individuals to get in on the crowdfunding scene. They're making major changes to allow you and your community to raise money on Facebook, to help you collect donations and enable supporters to fundraise for your charity or cause or product. And, you know, organizations like Facebook do not spend millions of dollars changing the look and feel of their platforms or the infrastructure of their platforms unless there's a demand for these things. And clearly, around the world, there is a massive demand for crowdfunding right now. We are at the very birth of a massive global industry here. And all the big players are getting in on the act. Here's a screenshot I took yesterday. Even now on your Facebook pages, within Facebook, you can add a button that allows people just to make a direct donation to you, a peer-to-peer donation. That means person to person. So a friend giving to a friend or a family member giving to a family member. Peer-to-peer crowdfunding is the next big wave of this industry that we're experiencing. So our company is 50/50 crowdfunding. That's who we're working with. And I want to just talk briefly about the man behind this, the brains behind this. This is David T. Rosen. He's the 50/50 crowdfunding founder. David is from Canada and is a forerunner and an expert in the crowdfunding space. It's a fact that he founded a similar program in 2002, which still runs today. In 2002, most people hadn't even heard of crowdfunding. David was so far ahead of the wave that he was creating programs in 2002 that were in this space. To date, that program has 670,000 members and has generated nearly $1 billion in donations. So out of that 34 billion in crowdfunding, $1 billion of it has been created through the platforms that David T. Rosen has created and in donations exchanged between members. So are we with the right guy? Absolutely, we're with the right guy. And absolutely, we're with the right company and organization. I just want to ask you a question. As I said earlier, we're right in the beginning of this. Imagine if you'd been involved in any of these major businesses right at the start, Google or Amazon or Microsoft or Netflix. How wealthy would you be today if you had been involved in those countries, if you'd had part ownership of those businesses? I used to work at Microsoft, and I knew a lady there who was one of the original investors in Microsoft. She sold her shares in 2014 for $135 billion. $135 billion. And she was right in at the start. She was one of the original funders. So how wealthy would you have been if you could get right in at the front, right in the beginning? Well, that's where we are today with 50/50 crowdfunding. This is a very, very new company. A great leader, David T. Rosen, very established, very credible in the industry, loads of experience. And this is his latest venture. And we are very, very privileged to be right in, right at the very start. This launched in early October. And this company, this business, this plan is already changing lives all around the world. Even in my own teams, I'm hearing stories of people being in profit for the first time on anything that they've ever tried without really doing a massive amount. They're just telling their friends and introducing it, and suddenly they're finding themselves in profit. So the question is, can you think of a better time to get started with 50/50 crowdfunding? I personally cannot think of a better time. We're right here at the beginning. 50/50 crowdfunding is the world's first crowdfunding system that allows you to receive half of everything that happens in your donation centers forever. Now, don't worry if you don't understand the terminology. The person who invited you on this call will explain it to you. We just call them donation centers. But 50/50 crowdfunding allows you to receive half of everything that happens in those donation centers forever. It's based on the world famous Mobius loop. Again, if you don't understand it, don't worry, in the System G technology. I didn't understand this when I started with 50/50 crowdfunding. But this is the most successful 2x2 follow me donation center in history. This is amazing. It just works because of this Mobius loop technology and because of the System G technology. Okay. And for a more in-depth explanation on that, get back to the person who brought you here this evening. 50/50 is a team crowdfunding system that provides help both from above and below. You can also receive donations seconds after registering. You can be up and running in seconds and receiving donations. Okay, there's no lengthy setups. There's no supplying your documents or your fingerprints or blood samples or DNA or anything like that. You can be up and running in a matter of seconds and able to receive donations seconds after registering. It's a very, very, very powerful system. And you get this amazing help both from above and below. I've been in a short time and I've received help from above and I've definitely received help from below. 50/50 crowdfunding is a peer-to-peer team crowdfunding system, which means there's no middleman. 100% of the donations that move through the system are immediately assigned to a beneficiary. This is very, very, very important. The company, David T. Rosen's company, does not take any percentage or cut or commission out of those donations. So if somebody donates to you as part of this program, you get 100% of that donation, which is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. 50/50 provides you with an easy to navigate, totally automated dashboard that displays everything in real time to allow you to monitor your donations second by second. This really is a fantastic piece of software that they've provided here. I am a software developer by trade. I'm very fortunate that I run a very successful software business here in the UK, and I understand what goes into building software. I understand the cost and time and development that goes into making something like this. And they've spent a lot of money and tested it to destruction. It just works. And given the amount of people that are in the system, it's working fine. There's no bugs. They ironed all that stuff out long before they launched it, and it's working beautifully. It's a great piece of software. It's very, very clever. So it takes just 3 simple steps to get going with 50/50 crowdfunding. The first step, the most important step, you must register. And the second half of registering is that you must become an active donor. This whole system relies on everyone being an active donor. When I joined, I became an active donor immediately. And it's important that when you register, you become an active donor immediately, because by becoming an active donor, you immediately unlock that donation center so that you yourself can start receiving donations. Okay. If you don't become an active donor, you will not be able to receive donations because your receiving center won't be unlocked. Become an active donor. What that means is that you need to make the donations that are specified in the back office as soon as you register. Okay. The second step is talk to 2 people. We all know 2 people. We've got friends, family, colleagues, the guy driving the bus, the guy in the Uber. You know, we all know 2 people. The person you sit next to on the plane going on holiday. Help them become an active donor. Help them register. So here we are. You bring your first person in, and then you bring your second person into the business. You introduce 2 new active donors, and then they themselves do exactly what you did. They help them, their 2 donors arrive into the system. And the system takes care of placing people automatically. You don't even have to think about that. You don't have to think, I need to put this one there and there. The system takes care of all that. As I said earlier, it's a very intelligent system. It knows what it's doing. Some great brains behind it. So your 2 active donors each find their 2 active donors until you have 6 people in your donation center. And that's your first donation center filled. Okay. And I'll show you a little bit later on what that means in monetary terms. But to fill a donation center, so we're not talking about thousands of people. We're not talking about hundreds of people. We're not even talking double figures. In all you need to do is find 2. Let me just reiterate: you don't need to find 6. You need to find 2 people, and then help those 2 people find their 2 people. So how do you build a 50/50 crowdfunding platform for yourself and receive it? Find 2 people. It's a simple find 2 who find 2. It's a 2 by 2. So, as we said, 50% always goes to you. There are 5 donation levels, and you receive 50% from each of those 5 independent donation centers. Now, I know some of you might be looking at those figures and thinking, "Whoa, hang on a minute, have I got to pay $4,000 or $2,000? No, you haven't. Okay, you can start small. You can start big if you want, but you can start small. Start at the $250 level, the affordable level. Okay, this is an affordable program for everyone. And at level 1, at the 250 level, when you fill your first donation center, you will have yielded donations that have come to you in the amount of $750. Okay, which is amazing. So those 6 people collectively will have donated $125 each, totaling $750. Okay, so now you're in positive cash flow, as we call it, which is great. And again, I don't know many businesses where you can just introduce a couple of people who introduce a couple of people, and you're in very positive cash flow, which I love. Now, at the $500 level, you can upgrade out of the donations that you made in your first 250 level donation center. So you can use the donations that you had come in to upgrade to the $500 level. And when that donation center is filled, you receive donations of $250 per person, times 6, that's $1,500. And don't forget here, because of the Mobius loop technology, when the people that you introduced into your 250 centers cycle themselves, they will follow you into those 500 level centers, and that's how it rolls up through the levels. The people that you introduce follow you through the system. At the $1,000 level, you receive a total of 6 donations of $500 for a total of $3,000 when you close that donation center, when that donation center is filled. So we're starting to get into some quite serious donations in, quite serious income from this program. And there are people achieving this sometimes within a matter of days of beginning, because they just talk to everyone they know. And most people get this, they understand it because it's very simple. $1,000 level, you receive total 6 donations of $1,000, $6,000. And again, at the final level 5, at the $4,000 level, you receive a total of 6 donations of $2,000 in every one of your donation centers. So every time you fill a donation center, you're getting $12,000. Every time you fill any one of these donation centers, a new one opens up automatically. So you can start filling it again with some new people if you want to, but also with the people that are coming through the system on the Mobius loop. Okay, it's a fabulous, fabulous system, this, and you can just keep receiving donations, keep receiving donations, keep receiving donations. And there are people, even on this call, that are making fabulous, fabulous amounts of money through the donations that the system is generating for them. So, just to briefly explain that in a little bit more detail, we don't want to go too deep tonight. We just want to give you the facts. So, when you bring your first person into your donation center, you introduce your friend or your family member, you will receive $125. So, when you introduce your second person into your donation center, you receive another $125. So now you've got $250 just for bringing 2 people into your donation center and helping them become active donors themselves. And they just do what you did. Okay, they themselves find their first person. So your first active donor finds his first active donor or her active donor, and of course they get $125. But the beautiful thing is, because this is a system, you also get $125. Okay, doesn't come out of your first person's money. The company pay this to you independently. So now you've got $375. You bring. They bring their first person in on the other side there of your donation center. That generates $125 for them and $125 for you. So now you've got $500 in donations. And so it goes on. Your second person brings in their second active donor. Now you've got $625. And finally, to fill your donation center, that final active donor comes in through your first donor. And now you filled your donation center. You've now received $750, $125 from each of the 6 people in your donation center. And don't forget, as we said earlier, the company isn't taking any commissions out of this. This is donations that arrive directly into your bank account, even while you sleep. I've had that already. You go to bed and you get up and there's money in your bank account. It's an amazing feeling, let me tell you, an amazing feeling. So, and you can specify however many ways you want to get paid, PayPal or Bitcoin or international bank transfer, whatever, okay? So, I'd like to be able to tell you it was more complicated than that. I'm sure you've got some questions or you want to tell us your story. We would equally love to hear that. I'm going to turn to my able friend here, Duncan, another very successful gentleman in the 50/50 business. And Duncan, I'm sure, will be able to assist me in allowing people to ask a question. What I'd like you to do, if you've got a question, is just drop a question mark or something in the chat, and we'll open up your microphone and you can tell us your story or ask your question. So let's open the board and let's see if there's any questions or testimonials.
Ray, it's Duncan speaking.
Yes, hello, Duncan.
Hi, excellent presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I love those first slides. So my first question is, can we use those slides? They're brilliant.
Yeah, of course. I'm not, and you know me, I'm not precious about anything. I'll send them over to you tonight.
Really good, really good. Just before we start, can you just check, because I know you asked me to allow people into the room, but I wasn't made.
Oh, yes, let me just make you a.
Check there's people not queuing in.
There we go. Your co-host. Okay. Oh, sorry. I should have.
That's all right. Don't worry.
My fault. I apologise. I apologise. There's a recording of this. We're recording this, so you can. I'll drop it onto the 50/50 Facebook group in about 15 minutes. So if you, again, I apologise to those I didn't admit to the room. That was my mistake. And you can pick this up on the recording, which will be there for all time and eternity. So if anyone's got a question or they want to speak, please just drop your name into the chat. Either myself or Duncan will open up your microphone and we will love to hear from you. So any questions or testimonials from anybody? Okay. It's all quiet on the Western Front at the moment. That either means I've confused everybody or I haven't confused anyone and they've understood it.
Well, I've got to admit, Ray, I didn't even realise myself how many companies were getting involved in crowdfunding. I mean, I literally, funny enough, you putting that slide together, did it myself today, checked on the internet, and then suddenly realised how many companies there are. And I looked at the top 8 in the world, and there's more, a lot more. It is unbelievable.
I think this whole industry has come about through 2 things. Number one, necessity. And the reason I think it's necessity is because we've seen a cultural revolution in the banking industry over the last decade. And the banks aren't lending. They're not lending to individuals. They're not lending to industry. They've pulled their horns in. And so obviously what's happened is that the human race has looked for an alternative and created that alternative in the form of crowdfunding. And what's happened is people have suddenly realized that this is a much better way of doing things because we don't get bogged down in bank interest rates or potentially risk losing our homes because we can't afford repayments. And it relies on the good spirit and the generosity of people around the world. And I can only believe that that's a great thing. I'm a great believer in positive energy. And if you do something positive, I'm sure the universe brings that back to you multiple times. And I think it's just a great feel-good factor. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel about it.
Totally agree. You're absolutely right. Timing is everything. And what's going on in the world right now with the banking system, and I don't think we've heard half of it yet. I mean, I was saying on a call the other night about the last banking crisis. I think there's going to be, I'm almost certain there's going to be another one bigger than the last one because the banks are still up to the same tricks as they were previously.
I don't think they've learned anything.
No, they haven't.
I think that was evidenced this week with Noel Edmonds, who's now launched his case against Lloyds for £60 million.
That's right. Well, there's a program on television due to come on. There's a trailer. What's it called? Spanking Banking.
Yes, exactly. Amazing. So I think what's happened is the human race has said, well, okay, that's the banks over there. We're never going to change them. Their greed and avarice will be their downfall. And what we will do is we will do something different. Gandhi said this. Thanks, James. I'll open you up in a moment. Gandhi said, do not fight anything because you become what you fight. The best way to deal with anything is simply to turn around and 180 degrees and do something different. Walk away. And I think that's what the human race has done with crowdfunding. They've gone, well, that's the banks. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do this because the banks have got no control of it. And it's based on a really good basic instinct of human beings, which is to help out. So what I'm going to do, James Lamb has popped up on the radar. I'm just going to unmute James, and then I'm going to unmute Tom. I've got you there, and I've got Alam. So let me just do these in order, if I may. So let's just open up James. Bear with me here. Good evening, James from Luton. How are you, my friend?
Very, very well, Ray. Once again, a blinder of a presentation, and as Dan just said, the new slides are just blow you away. The more information that comes, the better it is. I just wanted to add to the presentation, since you said, apologised at the end of your presentation, say you're sorry that there wasn't more to complicate the issue. And that's what I'm finding with this great opportunity, is that it is simple. However, it's simple, but it's not easy. Let's look how difficult it is. It means that we need to get some information to everybody we know. It's as difficult as that. I found something, take a look at it. That's how difficult it gets. But the good news is that difficulty of speaking to somebody is actually huge fun. Now, I was next to a guy this afternoon who's doing all right in this business, and we were together and we just had so much fun. We were talking to people in the Midwest of the United States. We were talking to people in Ukraine. We were talking to people in Spain. We were talking to people in the UK. Guess what? The UK still exists. But it was just brilliant fun to go globally with such an exciting and equal opportunity. Because once again, those people were, in some instances, quite wealthy and very well off. Other people were at the needy end of the scale, if you will. But the reality is that everybody has a need. Everybody could use a little extra money. And 50/50 crowdfunding provides that opportunity where we're not eating into their time. It's simple. Join, bring in two, and help those two get two. And help those two get two. You build your cycle and renew your money, and off you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that hard. Or is it that simple?
Yeah. And I have to say, Jane, we had great fun today, didn't we?
Oh, was that you?
It was me.
I'm glad you clearly got home safely, Ray. Yes, we had a fabulous day. Just a fabulous day. Yeah, make sure you have fun, everybody. That's what life's about.
Good. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate that very, very, very much. Thank you, mate.
No trouble.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to go to Tom now. Tom joins us from Spain. Let me just unmute Tom. Tom, good evening. Buenos días. ¿Qué tal?
Buenos días, señor. Can you hear me okay?
Sí, qué bueno.
Okay, how are you, Ray? That was really good, huh? Really enjoyed it. Okay, I'm just going to say one or two things,
Please.
Just to share. I know there's not a lot of people on the thing at the moment, but just, you know, I'm sort of in a preparation stage. I mean, since you introduced me to it, I was a bit tied up, but I always spend about a week, you know, really going into things so that I know I'm prepared. So I've just got a couple of things which I'm going to share. Okay. First of all, I've made a big list of people.
Right.
Because, and then also I've also been on the webinars learning. I really enjoyed your webinars, Duncan, as well, because there's a lot of clear information there, which, in fact, the two together, I haven't been with Colin yet, but I will be. So to me, it's a real learning stage now. And the main things I want to come up with is I've come up with two things on the back office website. You know me, Ray, I go in like an idiot. I try to find the things that don't work because they become negatives afterwards when people don't understand it.
Okay.
So the one thing I'd say is just maybe I'm an idiot, right? So I pushed on the home and I went to currency converter and I tried to do it several times. US dollars to euro to various currencies does not work. Okay.
So let me answer that one if I may, Tom. I actually don't use that currency converter.
Okay.
I didn't even know it was there, if I'm honest about it.
Well, yes.
I tend to use a website called xe.com.
So do I.
I'll put it in the chat, and the reason I'm going to put that in the chat is because xe.com is the most accurate currency converter on the planet, and you get a more accurate figure from that currency converter. But you're not the first person who has brought that up, Tom, and I know that information regarding that has been passed back to David and the company, and I believe that they're going to look at that and resolve any issues with that for us.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. Actually, Ray, xe.com. I'm glad you said that, because that's what I use.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know you think it's good, because I trust that. Okay. Right. The other question was, okay, it's got there on the same page. You are eligible to upgrade to 500. Please click here to confirm an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I promise you, I never push the button. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For a reason. I heard on one of Duncan's webinars, somebody done that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I don't know if it gives you a chance to confirm it.
It does, actually. It does.
It does, okay. All right.
You have to click it. I think it's twice. And it does state, you are committing to donating if you proceed.
Okay. I would suggest, if I may, that's a little bit in the front, and it tends to make people want to push it. And if they make mistakes, we're going to create problems. Okay?
Well,
it's just my opinion.
Well, we take all those opinions, and all opinions are valid. I'm sure that myself and or Duncan will look at that and pass your thoughts and comments back to the company for them to deal with. And what I'd like to add, Tom, is please don't ever do yourself down. You're not an idiot. In fact, you're one of the most intelligent people I know. So nobody's an idiot, and there is no such thing as a stupid question. I've been in computers and IT for 35 years, and I still do things that I think I know I should do, but I don't. I get them wrong. There's an old saying: most computer problems can be traced to the interface between the chair and the computer. But that's not a problem. If we don't understand something, it just means we don't understand it, and we can either ask, or we can research or look at a video. But nobody's an idiot, especially not you, Tom.
Yeah. Ray, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your input. I really appreciate that. I'm going to move on now, if I may.
Right.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Buenas noches. And let's go to Duncan. I wonder if you just step in here. Diane asked a question. She said, would you please explain the Mobius loop thing?
Okay, the Mobius loop, basically, what it means is any personally introduced people will follow you through at every level, right through for life. So what that basically means, now you do have to understand there will be periods when it seems like it's not happening as fast, and what's happening is the people who are behind you that you've referred and their team are basically finishing their matrix, and as soon as they do, whichever matrix they're on, you immediately see them pop back in to your matrix every time.
Yeah.
So as an example, Colin's on this call. Colin was one of the first people I'd introduced in the first day or so. I didn't fully understand the Mobius loop. And Colin actually filled his first matrix. So imagine this, he just joined, donated 125 to myself, and that same day, this was 3:00 in the afternoon, he'd completed his first matrix with a few people he'd introduced, and some of those that had introduced people. So he'd completed his first matrix, and the next minute, it looked like, to me, he joined again, because I actually called him up, and he said, no, I haven't joined again. I'm out. I haven't done anything. And we suddenly realized it's automatic. So automatically or I received an email saying Colin was about to send me another donation in the same day for another 125, because it's giving him the opportunity to re-enter into a new matrix. So automatically he popped back into my new matrix, and then I think a day or so later, again, he started a new matrix, and there's Colin again in my matrix under a different position. So immediately then I realized that as everybody is popping back into your matrix that you've personally introduced, their team is following them, obviously, and they're popping in underneath new people every time. So those new people, as an example, Colin dropped underneath a new person I just introduced the third time he'd cycled. And the next minute, what's Colin doing? Sending my new person a donation. And who introduced Colin but me? It's mad. But when you see that happen, a light bulb goes on. You suddenly think this is amazing, because everybody is benefiting from what everybody else is doing, whether they introduce them or not.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant explanation, Duncan, and very concise and clear. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to open the microphone of Alam next, and he's got a question. Bear with me. Let me just find you in the list there. There we are, Alam. If you'd like to pose your question.
Good evening, everybody. Hope thank you so much, Ray. That is very good presentation.
Thank you. Could you speak up a little bit? You're very, very quiet.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, just about.
Okay, I think something issue with my iPad.
Okay, that's better.
Just want to know about, because I think because Colin know me very well. We do roadshow quite, and either I am on the road or I am on airport. So is there any future we are doing open presentation 50-50, and are we going to invite big on the CEO over here?
Again, that's something I'll have to defer to Duncan, because Duncan would know more about that. Duncan is...
I don't know about road shows, but I do know that the CEO, David, has been on a few calls. In fact, there's a recording I've just posted back up onto the Facebook group to bring it to everybody's attention, where David came in on the webinar, the Canadians did, and he is explaining the legality and the longevity of the company, and it is really worth watching. You need to maybe fast forward it about, I think I put 9 minutes in, and David starts speaking. But the reason why I've reposted it again, because everybody should watch that. Everybody, it's brilliant. Because I mean, we all have the doubts. You know, is this like a lot of the businesses we've been in the past? And when you hear the passion and the belief and the credibility of the owner, it makes you understand that we have got hold of something amazing here. And as you said, Ray, before, this is just the beginning of something that is huge happening worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that answers your question.
Are we allowed to do any open presentation, any hotel?
I don't see why not. Absolutely. I mean, listen, these are open calls, really. There's no reason why you can't do a presentation in a hotel.
Yeah. I would like to answer that, actually. I've got a friend of mine. I was in Luton today with James. Got a friend of mine that owns a hotel in Luton, and I went to see him after I went to see James. We're already planning to do open meetings in that hotel. And I'm ordering pull-up banners and stuff just so that we can do that. And get a group of people into a meeting room in a hotel. I don't see any problem with it.
To be honest, you've got me thinking. I mean, to be honest, I haven't even been out the house since I've only actually met one person regarding this, because it is internet based, and you know yourself, people are reluctant to sometimes leave their homes to come to a meeting because of traffic and all the rest of it. But there's nothing better than actually meeting people face to face.
That person to person thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, that's one thing I love doing. So you've got me thinking. I'm thinking, yeah, why aren't we doing?
I'll have to invite you down to Luton. Okay. Thank you very much for that. I hope that answers your question, Alan.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for your question. That's great. Does anyone else have anything that they wish to add? Perhaps just get Colin in here just to say hi, because Colin's on the call. Colin, good evening. How are you?
Hi, mate. I can't really talk, I'm afraid, though.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you okay, but thank you for that. Thank you for your contribution.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate.
I think Colin's wife's in bed. I think he doesn't want to speak to what he did say.
Good. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, what I'd like to do at this stage is just thank you all for your time and attention. And if you're new on this call and you're here for the first time and somebody's invited you on this call, then the way to get started with 50/50 is to get back to the person who invited you on this call. Okay, that's the right way to do this, and that person will be able to give you further information, or even put you into a three-way call with their sponsor so that you can get more clarity on whatever you need to get clarity on. What I would do is I would encourage you to make a start. You know, Richard Branson said, you know, if you get offered an amazing opportunity, but you don't think you can do it, just say yes. Learn how to do it later. When I joined 50/50, I didn't understand the ins and outs of it. What I did see was lots of ordinary people making money. And that was the driver that got me into 50/50, really. Apart from the fact my wife would me into it, but we won't go into that. So once again, thank you everyone for your contribution. Thank you, Duncan, for supporting me. That's very kind of you. And we're going to leave it there, and we'll see you again tomorrow night. Now, don't forget, there is a webinar tomorrow at 11 a.m., which is delivered brilliantly by Colin Simmons that you heard there. And that's 11 o'clock.